A nuzlocke is a set of rules used in primarily Pokemon games to make the game more of a challenge for the player. The gist of the rules are if a Pokemon faints, it dies forever, and if all of your Pokemon die and you white out, you need to restart your run entirely from the beginning. Over the years, people have adapted the Nuzlocke challenge to different games other than Pokemon, such as Marvel Rivals, Borderlands, FNAF World, and even FNAF itself, just to name a few. This type of challenge is a true test of skill, as one single mistake may cost you multiple hours of your life. When I was first thinking about doing this sort of challenge with Deltarune, I was originally conflicted on what I wanted to do. I knew I needed to do something truly challenging, so I already knew I would have to incorporate the secret bosses in some way. But I couldn't just beat them all in a row without dying. No, that would be too easy, and people have already done that before. I needed a challenge that would truly test my skill and mastery of these bosses. And so after some thinking, I began the challenge to beat every Shadow Crystal boss in a row without getting hit. Taking inspiration from other sources, I would name this challenge DELTALOCKE. Before starting with how the challenge went, we must state the rules. No, not you, goddammit, get out of here. As I was saying, we must state the rules, which are as follows. I must complete every Shadow Crystal boss in a row without being hit on any of them. I can do these bosses in any order, but if I get hit on boss 4, I must restart the run and reset back to boss 1. For example, if I do Jevil first and Gerson last, and I get hit on Gerson, I have to restart the run back to Jevil and no-hit everyone again. Now that the rules are stated and the challenge is introduced, let me answer the first and most obvious question of the challenge. What order am I going to be attempting the bosses in? Well, in terms of order, I want to do the easier bosses last and the harder ones first, since I'm going to be attempting this many times, and having a boss that I suck at earlier in the run to get it out of the way is obviously more logical than having it at the end where my nerves are piled up and I'm about to explode out of nervousness. I will explain the builds, strategies, and attacks for each boss when I get to them in a run, but for now I will just give a simple explanation on what the order is and why it is going to be like that. For the first boss, I will fight Jevil. I know, it's a shocker that the knight isn't up first, but I gotta be honest, I suck at Jevil. I have no-hit him more times than any other boss, but I am still way more confident in my abilities to no-hit all 3 other bosses under more pressure than Jevil. Second, I will fight Gerson. Gerson is the most mechanically different boss in the 4, as he uses the Green Soul mode, so I would like to get him out of the way as soon as possible. Also, his Red Soul attacks make me extremely angry, which you will see later in the video. Third, I will fight the Knight. Albeit the most skill required boss out of the 4 to beat, Miss Lost Girl December I Am Totally Not the Roaring Knight Holiday is a pretty consistent fight overall, meaning there is not much variation to the attacks it has, so once you get good at it, and I consider myself at least pretty good at it, it just really comes down to precision. Well, all but one type of attack is pretty consistent, but we'll talk about that one later. Finally, I will do Spamton Neo last. Although he has my favorite theme out of the 4, he is without a doubt the easiest to beat. In my opinion, he literally only has one hard attack, so he's going to be last. With the rules in order out of the way, it's finally time to go over how day 1 of the challenge went. Once again, I hope you enjoy. From day 1 of the challenge, I already had a deadline planned for when I needed to beat it. I started the challenge on August 6th, and school for me started on the 25th, which means I had 18 days in total until I couldn't run attempts consistently anymore. Well, that would be the case if I wasn't going on vacation on the 9th for 7 days, meaning I really only had 12 days to do the challenge. However, Despite my condensed schedule and close deadline, I still had much hope for the challenge regardless. Before I go into my first attempts, I would like to explain how this video is going to be laid out. Whenever I reach a new boss or change up the order, which I will be doing a lot, and do a new boss that I haven't gone over yet, I will explain my entire strategy for that boss, including armor, weapons, and personal strategies for each attack. With everything being said and done, let's go over the first boss of the challenge, Jevil. Jevil, in my opinion, is the second most skill demanding fight in the game next to the Knight, of course. The only reason I have him first is because, well, as I said, I suck at this fight. His fight is incredibly trippy and is definitely the most bullet spam-esque fight in the challenge, in my opinion at least. However, I do have the best strategy you can use to no-hit Jevil without just genuinely hacking. I found this strategy from a YouTuber named DeltaLocke, so props to them. Your turns are fairly simple with this strategy. All you need to do is attack on the first turn, use pirouette on the second turn after the first attack, and then just keep attacking and use Rude Buster whenever you can. However, do not defend with Chris to do Rude Buster if you don't have enough TP, just attack and use Rude Buster the next turn. The build I use for this fight is pretty obvious as there's really nothing else to use in chapter 1, so I just use Spooky Sword for Chris, Brave Axe for Susie, and Ragger for Rouse. The only piece of armor I use is the Iron Shackle because it raises Susie's damage, and the random Amber card that she just won't let go. Now I'll go over all of Jevil's attacks. For the first attack where he shoots a shotgun-esque bullet patterns of spades at you, try your best to stay near the middle but as far away as possible from Jevil himself. In my experience, you will always have enough TP after this attack to use pirouette, so don't worry about that. For his second attack, the Spade Spiral, I would suggest staying close to the spades on the outside of the spiral to gain enough TP for a Rude Buster after this attack. But if you want to be more flashy, I sometimes go inside the circle the spiral makes and it gives me even more TP. The amount of TP you get from going in the circle compared to not going in the circle is pretty drastic in my opinion, so keep that in mind. For his third attack, Heart Bombs, I hug the top of the box for a wave of bombs, let them blow up, go down, and repeat this every wave. More specifically, I move to the next position whenever there's a gap in the bombs for me to move through. My main hardship with this attack is trying to not get pincered, so as long as you can switch up and down effectively, you should be fine. For his fourth attack, Devil's Knife, I usually just rotate with the knives around the box and stay as close to the knives as possible so I can get the maximum amount of TP. This is kind of risky though, so if you want to play it safe, just go around the box normally. His fifth attack, Carousel version 1, is pretty easy in my opinion. You kind of just go up and down wherever the carousel takes you and you will be fine. His sixth attack, Club Bombs, is pretty easy with some practice. I personally always start at the top of the box and move up and down as the clubs make a sort of passageway for you. Something I do suggest is don't go too far down or up because then you'll get pincered by the bombs. His seventh attack is a breather in my opinion. Diamonds will shoot up at you and you just have to move out of the way. Stay at the top of the box and react accordingly and you should be fine. The only thing about this attack is don't go to the edges of the box because then you can just get walled off and die. Other than that, it's pretty easy. His eighth attack is the second spiral, which is simply just a faster version than version 1. You move much faster during this attack, so keep that in mind. I don't like to go in the circle in this one because the speed often trips me up, but you do you. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. His ninth attack, Carousel V2, is pretty unpredictable. I try to focus on the left side of the screen to see where I need to go next before I have to, but it still trips me up sometimes. In my opinion, this is definitely Jevil's hardest attack. His 10th attack, Spade Bomb, is the last attack before the fake out. I don't really have much advice for this one except to just pay attention to every bomb that explodes and be aware of where you are moving. After this, Jevil should play his fake diamonds attack, and as long as you've done enough damage, you should knock him down without having to do final chaos. To my knowledge, this is the best and most efficient strategy for Jevil, and it makes the fight pretty predictable in terms of what attack you're going to have to do next. However, even with this strategy, I still suck at the fight and get hit around 40% of the time. I seriously don't know what it is with this guy. His fight is just so chaotic. Get it? No? Alright. Sorry, I'll see myself out. The main attacks that I struggled on were Carousel V2, Spade Bombs, and Heart Bombs as they were really unpredictable for me. So I knew I had to practice them a little bit more so I wouldn't get hit on them later in the challenge. However, despite my hardships with this fight, I did manage to get some runs past Jevil on day 1. So now it is time to go over everything for the second boss, Gerson Boom. Remember when I said that Gerson is the most mechanically different boss out of the 4 Shadow Crystal bosses in the order section? Yeah, I was not lying. Gerson is the only boss in the quartet, even in the entirety of Deltarune for that matter, to use the green soul mode. While Spamton Neo uses the yellow soul, the difference between yellow and red are not as drastic as they are from green. Green is the only soul mode that completely removes your ability to dodge and instead makes you block bullets being thrown at you. Obviously, this is extremely different from every other fight in the game, which makes him a pretty hard fight to adapt to on the run. However, regardless of that, I consider myself actually very good at the green soul attacks and only lost 1 or 2 runs to them. Which might make you ask though, wait, if green soul is so easy for you, then why is Gerson so early in the run? Well, my dear viewer, that is because of his red soul attacks. I hate these attacks, specifically the one shown on screen right now, with every fiber of my being. Along with having to dodge these attacks, which is already stressful enough, I have to play ping pong with a rude buster shot nearly every turn if I don't want to do extra attacks, which just adds to the stress meter of not wanting to mess up. For the strategies in this fight, I'm not going to go into detail on how to block every green soul attack because it really just boils down to block the projectiles. However, obviously, I will go over every red soul attack and how to dodge them consistently. But first, here's the build I used for this fight. I'm pretty sure only Susie's equipment matters, and I'm obviously sure that only her weapon does, so I just used Devil's Knife and 2 other lodestones so I could use as many rude busters as possible. Now, onto the attacks. For his attack where he plays ping pong with the turtle shell, the strat that helped me the most was rotating from top to bottom, kind of like Jevil's heart bomb attack. Make sure to always be aware of the trail of stars that follow the shell every time the shell goes across the box. Totally didn't learn this the hard way. Go! Gosh, dang it. Oh my gosh. At the end of this attack, he slams the shell into the middle and stars fly upwards in a random pattern. This part of the attack killed me the most out of every attack in this entire fight. The only thing that helped me pass this attack more consistently was hugging the bottom left wall and only moving when I needed to. For his throwing hammers attack, both of them, the strategy I found most consistent is staying near the bottom of the box and routing your way through the hammers as they fall on you. I found it useful to focus my eyes on the hammers he throws and not to look at my soul, as it helped me find a pathway before I actually had to go through it. This attack was very frustrating for me at the start because sometimes it just seemed way too cluttered to even process what the heck was happening. So if you struggle on this attack, don't worry, it's natural. For the attack where he breaks your shield and slams down, the strategy that helped me the most is to stay in the middle and never go too far to one side. Doing that would always end up in me dying. Also, obviously, don't fall for his trick. That's all I really have for this attack. It never really caused me that much trouble. Just, as I said, stay in the middle. For his run for your life attack, I seriously don't know what else to call it. There isn't much advice to give other than just make your way to the safe zones as fast as possible. Just make sure the hitbox is gone before running to the next safe zone. Totally didn't also learn this the hard way. And for his final attack, the spiral slams, instantly go to the rightmost wall and follow him pretty closely as he spins, and you shouldn't get hit. Once again, not much advice for this one, as I barely ever got hit on this. Overall, I only got to Gerson a few times on day 1, and most of them died to him near instantly, with my personal best at a green soul attack I just got too nervous about doing. The loss on the green soul attack hit my morale like a truck, and I only really had 1 real attempt left in me for the rest of the day. I couldn't believe it. I had gotten past what I thought were my two most problematic fights on day 1, and I was feeling amazing. The rest of the challenge compared to the first half was much easier in my eyes at the time, so with a good mind, I booted up chapter 3, and this is how my attempt at the night went.
You know? What the f***? Also, dude, I think I did actually break my glasses. Not break them, but like, injure them. At least a little bit, dog. Oh my gosh. I haven't focused this so long. We got past the first attack, which was amazing attempt. I'm about to break my desk. I just acted. What the hell are you doing, Liz? Okay, you know what?
So, I'm assuming you're wondering why on God's green earth I chose S action for Susie here instead of a Rude Buster, and I have 2 explanations. 1, it is because I'm an idiot, and 2, it is because every other fight that I have to use Rude Buster in, the Rude Buster is on the first selection of Susie's magic. Of course, the knight is an exception to this, because of course it is. And because of this, I ended up accidentally choosing S action. Also, if it was not already obvious, I was incredibly nervous going into this fight. This insane failure left me with the realization that I absolutely needed to practice and get more comfortable with the knight if I was going to do them later in the challenge. After this loss, I was pretty heartbroken that I got so far and lost it all because of a stupid mistake. I tried to get back to that point, but it was already late and I ended up having to call it quits for day 1. But I went to bed pretty enthusiastic. With progress like this, I was sure I would be done with this challenge sooner rather than later. It was at this point in the challenge that I had truly realized what I had gotten myself into. Prior to starting this challenge, I had only no-hit all the bosses once besides Jevil, so in retrospect, it was dumb as hell for me to start so soon. So starting on day 2, I came up with a warm-up routine. Every day before I started attempts at the challenge, I would warm up by no-hitting every boss one by one so I could be more comfortable with them when I got to them in a real run. Due to my devastating loss yesterday, I decided the first boss I would warm up on would be the Roaring Knight, so let's go over the strategy for that boss now. The Knight is without a doubt the most skill-demanding fight in this entire game. Every attack is fairly difficult to dodge and nearly one-shots you if you do get hit. Along with the difficult attacks, some of them have pretty rough RNG that can make the attack either super easy or super hard. In short, this fight sucks. I seriously do not know what my train of thought was doing this fight so late in the challenge. I don't know if it's just because this is the first attack in the fight, but my biggest problem overall is how stupid the star attacks are. There are 2 star attacks, not counting the full screen one in the fight with this build, and these attacks are complete and utter bullshit to dodge sometimes. Like dude, just look at this clip and tell me what the hell I was supposed to do there. You can play perfectly in this fight and you can still lose just because the game wants you to lose. And my God, did this game want me to lose. And that's not even the weirdest thing about this fight. I haven't even mentioned the hitboxes. Alright, let's run a little test. Here's 4 photos, labeled A, B, C, and D. Which one do you think I got hit on? Well, no matter what you picked, you're wrong, because I didn't get hit on a single one of these attacks. Somehow. But do you want to know what attack did hit me? This! As you can clearly see, the hitboxes in this fight are just as aggravating as the difficulty itself. Anyway, enough ranting, I'll discuss my strategy for the hitboxing knight now. Here's the build I use. For Chris, I use Saber 10, Lodestone, and Twin Ribbon. For Susie, I use Devil's Knife, Spike Band, and Lodestone. And for Rouse, I use Puppet Scarf, Lodestone, and another Lodestone. There is an alternate version of the build that still allows you to beat the knight in 7 turns, where you use Toxic Axe for Susie and replace the Lodestone with Jevil's Tail, but I personally like to use the Devil's Knife more because of the reduced Rude Buster TP cost. Now that the build has been discussed, let's move on to the actual attacks. The first attack, the triple shard stars or whatever, is really stupid, and you just have to dodge the main wave of stars and move to the most open spot and pray to God you just don't get hit. I am completely convinced that some generations of this attack are just entirely impossible to dodge, so if you get hit by something that seems like complete bullshit, don't worry, it happens. The second attack is, in my opinion, the easiest attack in the entire fight, as all you have to do is move in the direction that's either to the right or to the left of the sword that is about to shoot at you. The best way I can explain it is, say an attack is coming from the left or right part of the box. You either just want to go up or down if that is the case, and vice versa. The third attack is really reaction based, so it just requires a lot of practice. The knight will either cleave the box vertically or horizontally and will do so for the rest of the attack. Quickly adapt to which type it is and ready yourself for the shards that will shoot at you once the box is cleaved. The shards will shoot out at you in a line with gaps, but there are more shards right above those gaps, so you must dodge them after even going through them. A strategy that I see a lot of people use for this attack is to go to the bottom left of the box, no matter what variation of the attack it is. The reason to do this is because it limits your actions to either standing still then moving out of the way, going left then going back in the middle, or going right and going back in the middle, which makes it safer. The fourth attack is a sort of Sans Dance-esque attack that directs a bunch of swords at you at the end, making you need to find a safe spot before they shoot. This attack is fairly easy post-nerf, but real ones know how dumb this hitbox was before. A strategy I use for this attack is I look not at the soul but at the right of the box to see where I need to move before I do, so I can then react accordingly. I also find it personally easier to hold X during this attack to slow my soul so I can be more precise, but you don't need to do this. Once the tunnel part is over, move to a safe zone and wait until the attack ends. I always found this attack fairly easy, but still stay on guard. The fifth attack is also very reaction based, just like the third one, but there are ways to make it easier this time. The knight will slice the box in 2, then 4 again, then 6 again, and then finally 8. Obviously, to dodge this attack, you want to move to the spots that aren't red, indicating that they are safe and will not be slashed. For some reason, I was seemingly magnetically drawn to these lines because every time I dodged them, it was either in the tiniest safe spot imaginable, or I got my head just taken clean off. To make this attack easier, every time after the knight slashes, move to a corner of the box. This will make the window of safe zones much larger, making it far easier to dodge. That's pretty much it. It's just another attack that requires a lot of practice, and you just kind of have to get good at it. The sixth attack is the shooting stars again, and you just have to do the same strategy as the first one. As I have said, I found this attack incredibly annoying, so I got hit here a lot. The seventh and final non-mandatory attack of this fight, assuming you've hit enough crits with both normal attacks and Rude Buster, is a remaster of the third attack where the knight slashes the box in 2. This rendition is much harder, however, because the knight will slice the box both vertically and horizontally during this attack, making it much harder to adapt to on the fly. Despite the difficulty change, the strategy is pretty much the same as the first one. You just really need to get used to reacting quickly when the position changes. Right, congratulations! If you've made it this far, you're on to the final 2 scripted attacks. The final attack before this full screen one is a remaster of the 5th one, where the knight slashes and you need to move to a safe zone. The only difference is, every time the knight slashes this time, it'll separate the box into 8 pieces. Furthermore, before the attack ends, the knight will slash the box in a pattern similar to Sans' Gaster Blaster Spiral at the end of his fight. While the strategy is pretty much the same as its predecessor, I personally like to use Hold Breath here, as it makes it easier to maneuver to the safe zones quickly in my opinion. Also, to dodge the sword spiral, a strategy that helped me was sticking as close to the slashes as possible, as it made it easier for me to move quickly around it. Finally, there is the dreaded full screen attack. This attack is absolutely brutal to no-hit, and as you saw with my rant on the hitboxes, I would often get hit on this. Before you do this attack, if you did not already, use Hold Breath. I'm pretty sure it's damn near impossible to no-hit it without it. And yes, I do know you can use Hold Breath at any time in the fight, but personally, I did not see any usefulness to using it until the final few attacks. When the attack starts, maintain a position underneath the knight. Wait until the night starts to absorb the stars, and then maneuver your way past every star accordingly. Then, when the spiral starts, you need to go in a circle motion around the night until it ends. After it ends, I like to move to the left underneath the night, as it makes the final part easier to dodge in my opinion. Finally, when the night screams and shoots out the stars, find and go through all the gaps it makes, and then dodge the arrows the stars make when they explode. And if you have done everything accordingly, you will have then no-hit the night. This fight seriously haunts my dreams, specifically the star attacks like I said before, and it haunted this chapter of the challenge too, because for some reason I just seemed to not be able to get a single run past the night if I had beaten Jevil, and vice goddamn versa. Eventually, I desperately needed a change of pace from getting repeatedly shoved into a metaphorical locker by Jevil in the night, so I decided to start practicing with the last boss in the challenge, Spamton Neo. Unlike the Knight, Spamton Neo is arguably the easiest Shadow Crystal boss in the entire game. Not only does he have the least required attacks out of every single one of them, but all of his attacks except 2 are completely free. Spamton Neo is the only other boss in the game besides Gerson to use a different soul mode, however. This may sound like it would make the fight harder, but no, because as we've discussed, the yellow soul is basically the exact same as the red soul except you have to press Z sometimes. My build for this fight is quite similar to the one in Gerson since I am doing the Snowgrave version of Spamton Neo, meaning I only need equipment for Chris. Speaking of which, let's go over now. The weapon I use is Mecha Saber since it's the highest damaging sword in Chapter 2. For the armor, I use Pink Ribbon for the maximum amount of TP possible, and Jevil's Tail for the damage buff. While this is not the highest damaging build for this fight, as some people opt to use Iron Shackle instead of Pink Ribbon, I found it far easier to get X slashes more consistently with it, which ultimately resulted in more damage for me. My strategy for this fight is fairly simple, as it just boils down to TP farming as much as possible so I can abuse the insane amount of damage X slash does to end the fight as quick as I can. Now, onto the attacks. For the first one, Spamton Neo will fire out 4 heads either on the top, middle, or bottom of the screen. The most widespread strategy for this attack is to simply charge up a big shot and take out all 4 heads at once, and that is precisely what I do. The only special thing I try to do is I fire at the last moment possible so I can farm a little bit more TP from this attack. For the second attack, there will be a wall with a head in the part of it, which you need to shoot and then go through the hole where the head was originally. After 3 walls, there will be 3 walls back to back with 2 rows of 3 heads, which you need to shoot through once more. The strategy for this attack is very similar to the previous one, and it is to just shoot all of the heads. However, for the 3 walls in a row part, rather than charging up a big shot to take out all 6 heads at once, I usually opt to only take out one of the rows and squeeze through a tinier gap, which results in more TP. Also, similarly to the last attack, I always try and shoot the heads as late as possible so I can have as much TP as I can. For the third attack, Spamton Neo will release a chained heart that will shoot out diamond-shaped projectiles. If you destroy the heart, you will deal an extra 3% of Spamton Neo's damage to him, so always make sure to do that. I like to stay as close to the shards as possible when they go by so I can ensure I have enough TP to use X-Slash on the following turn. This attack is really easy to dodge in my opinion, and the heart goes away if you shoot it, so it's really never been a problem. However, this cannot be said for the future attacks that feature the chain heart, which I will go over momentarily. The fourth attack is also extremely easy. Spamton will pick up the phone, talk for a second, and then start shooting Peepus out of it. This attack is very simple. Just keep charging up big shots and taking out the Peepus as they arrive. Just be careful to not let any of the Peepus hit your box, however, as to my knowledge, the heads they spew out are completely undodgeable and will result in a death. The fifth attack is also fairly straightforward. At the beginning, I like to run as fast as I can to the rightmost side of the box, get a little TP from the head, and then instantly run back to continue the attack as usual. This attack can seem chaotic at times, but as long as you just keep subconsciously charging and shooting big shots, the dodging is very simple. The main strategy I use is focusing only on the middle projectile and acting like the other 2 simply don't exist, because they effectively don't. The top and bottom projectile always just leave the box instantly, so they do not matter in the slightest. This way, I could just focus on positioning myself under or over Spamton's head at all times, and I will never ever get hit by the projectiles. The next and final 2 attacks are the only 2 challenges in the fight, so I hope you haven't been getting too comfortable. However, compared to the 7th one, the 6th one is much easier. Do not say 6-7. My strategy simply consists of taking out the mouth as quickly as possible and then maneuvering my way through both the nose and eye projectiles. The only piece of advice I have for this attack is to stay as far away from Spamton's face as possible, as it will give you much more time to dodge the incoming bullets. Now, on to the last and dumbest attack. This attack feels super unfair at times, especially if the mini hearts go in directions that are completely opposite to one another, as it can then seem impossible to find a safe spot in the box. The only strategy that I found that helped me was staying at the bottom of the box as much as I could, but I really cannot stress how stupid this attack is. It's Night Stars level of stupid. But after this attack, assuming you have done enough damage from X slashes and normal hits throughout the fight, you should be done. And that's really all it is for Spamton Neo. So, now that we've gone over all of the bosses, I'm assuming you're probably wondering how the actual challenges have been going. Short answer, bad. Really bad. I grinded countless attempts consisting of single no-hits and 2 in a rows, but for some reason it felt like there was like a physical barrier between me and the checkpoint of 3 in a row. And dude, that barrier lasted forever. I was hard stuck on 2 in a row from August 6th to August 22nd. That's more than 2 weeks. But finally, after countless runs and 16 days, I got up on August 22nd and at long last got this run. So I finally got 3 in a row. Even though I just died on the first attack of the night, unfortunately, it is finally progress on the challenge after so long. However, I had mixed feelings about this win. On one hand, as stated, I finally broke the 2 in a row barrier, but on the other, I only had 3 more days left in summer break. I had the rest of the 22nd, the 23rd, and finally the 24th. I wanted more than anything to get this challenge completed before school began, but I was slowly losing hope. I had already poured countless hours into this challenge, and I only had about 48 left. But, surprisingly, later that day I got another run to 3 in a row. I had changed up the order to Spamton Neo, the Knight, Gerson, and then Jevil, and I lost on the heart attacks with Jevil. This showed me that the initial 3 in a row wasn't just a fluke, and it gave me motivation to keep trying. I woke up on the morning of the 23rd and nearly instantly started grinding out more attempts. And then, late that night at around 11 PM, I got a run that was shaping up to be the win. I beat the knight, then Spamton Neo, then Gerson, and then all that was left was Jevil. I made it through the spades, the spiral, the hearts, the devil's knife, the carousel, the club bombs, the diamonds, and the second spiral, all while I was on damage pace to skip the full screen attack. I only had 2 attacks left and then I would finally be done. This loss devastated me. I was only 2 attacks away from winning, and I threw the run. I tried as hard as I could to get another run on pace, but it was already midnight, and for the life of me, I just couldn't. I laid in bed that night utterly defeated, and all that was on my mind was that I only had 1 day left. It's okay. I can do this. I can win today. I have to. I run an attempt. I die on the last attack of the night. That's fine. I can just run another. I go again. I get hit on Jevil's hearts. That's fine. I can run another. I go again. I die on the knight's stars. That is fine. I can just run another. I go again. I die. I go again. I die. I go again. I die. This process repeats for 3 hours straight. I kept failing over and over and over and over and over again, but I would not stop. This was my last day. I had to win. Until finally, I got on a good run. This was it. This was my last chance. It was do or die. It was over. I had done it. If you made it to the end of the video, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This video was a huge passion project, and it means the world to me that you watched it all the way through. To my knowledge, this is the only completion of this challenge in the world. Not to say I could only do it, far from it. It's just a really cool fact I'd like to share. Huge shout out to both my girlfriend, LyricVHS, who drew the beautiful thumbnail art for this video, and to Stereo, the person who made that absolute banger of a UST you just heard. Both of their socials should be shown on screen right now and will be linked in the description, so please go check them out. If you like this video and want to see more challenge run content in the future, please do me a favor and like the video and subscribe to the channel so I know people want to see more of this. And if you want, comment down below and I'll respond to every one I can. Once again, thank you for watching the video, and I'll hopefully see you next time.